Now that we know a little bit about formulas, we need to talk about functions. Functions are built-in tools that we can use in formulas that will help us get more work done in Excel. In this lesson, we're going to look at some basic functions as well as learning how to use the Formula Builder to access Excel's extensive library of functions. We're going to start with a couple of easy functions, sum and average. We're also going to start with the function button on the quick access toolbar. This icon holds some of the most commonly used functions in Excel and provides us with a fast way to insert them in our worksheets. We'll use the same table we used in a previous exercise, but this time, instead of building the sums purely from scratch, we'll use the functions. We're going to go down and select cell D9, and then from the quick access toolbar, we'll click on the Autosum button, and that's this button here that looks like a big E, or some of you might know it's a sigma. We'll click that, and now notice the marquee. Excel has taken a guess as to what we want to sum up. It's either going to guess the cells above the cell you're on or to the left. So if the range needs to be adjusted, you can do that here before entering it simply by clicking and dragging to reshape the range. I can simply highlight a different range, and you see how the address changes as I move and change my range or make it different. Just added something to it. But I'm going to go ahead and just add these two cells, what's in column B and C. And when I'm done, I can go ahead and hit enter. And now Excel put in a sum function to add up those cells. And I can just copy and paste that down to D15. Or I can use the autofill handle and just drag it down. And now I'm going to go ahead and try the average in column E. Now that's really close to where I did the AutoSum, but it's the arrow next to it. That's going to contain the other functions that Excel thinks you're going to use pretty frequently. We've got average, count of numbers, min and max. And then that more functions will bring us up to the Formula Builder. We'll just go ahead and click average. Now this time, Excel has guessed again the 3 cells to the left of the one we're on. That's actually not what we want to average. We just want the first 2. So we can, again, easily just click and drag and highlight those 2 and hit enter. And I'll use my other trick with the autofill. Instead of dragging down the autofill handle, I'll just double click it and it will fill in that average all the way down. We just added up the totals into the average, similar to what we did in another exercise, but this time we used Excel's built-in functions to do so. Well, now we're going to look at a little bit more of an involved function and why the Formula Builder is good to use when we want to do that. What we have here is a little grid that is going to be used to calculate payment over a number of time periods, months or years. Basically what this is going to represent is buying a house. It's going to be the calculation of a house payment. So what we have here is the price of $20,000, an interest rate of 4%, and a term of 5 years. So it looks like we're going to buy a car to start off with. And then the monthly payment here is a little bit of a translation. We're turning it from an annual to a monthly translation, and that's just because that's how the payment function works. So again, we've got the price is still $20,000. The monthly interest rate would be 0.33%, and the term or number of periods is going to be 60. That's 60 months. So we want to build the payment function using the Formula Builder. So we're going to select cell D34. That's where we want to put it. And now we'll click on the Formula Builder right here on the status bar. Now this Formula Builder has many different aspects to it. On this unit we're going to cover the first tab, which is just this f of x. That's notation for a function. And now you see we have some categories, got most recently used. If I scroll down, have some other categories. But I can just search for a function. And right now we know what we want to do. It's a payment function. So we're going to type in PMT. In a couple of minutes we'll show you how to look for functions if you don't know exactly what it's called. So I found a financial function, PMT, for a payment. Now right away, if you look at the lower half of that screen, Excel gives you a description. Calculates the payment for a loan based on constant payments and a constant interest rate. And here's the syntax, PMT, rate, number of periods, present value, future value, and type. If I wanted explicit help on that, I could click on help right here and it would give me a very detailed description of that payment function. Or I can go ahead to begin, just double click on the function. So I'll double click it. And now I get the little building section that comes up that has all my arguments for my function. Look at the lower right hand corner where it says result and there's nothing there. I want you to watch this because this will always tell us what that function is going to return. So we'll start off and click in our rate box, and we need to have a rate there. So we'll go ahead and click on the cell that has the interest rate we're concerned with, and that's going to be D31. And you see Excel will put in what that rate evaluates to. Next, let's go to the NPER, that's number of periods. And notice this as well. When I click on one of these arguments, the description tells me what that argument is. NPER is the total number of payments for the loan. So I'll click on my number of payments. Then I'll go to the PV. PV is the present value or the total amount that the series of future payments is worth now. So I'll click on PV. And it filled that in. And notice my result came in right away. That's because sometimes in functions you don't need every single parameter or argument to find the value. We'll talk about what these are in a second, but all we needed to calculate the payment was the interest rate, number of periods, and a present value. So now that I have it, I can just go ahead and hit enter, and you see I've got my payment here, $368.33. And it built my payment function in the formula bar. Now, why is it negative? Technically speaking, if you are buying a house or a car, you're borrowing money, so that has to be a negative. We just think about it as, we have to pay that, but technically I'm paying out $368 a month, so that's why it comes back as a negative. Just for an exercise, we can go back and talk about these other arguments. Notice the formula builder stays on the screen. As I click around, it'll stay active until I purposefully dismiss that window by clicking the X. So I can go back to my formula, and I'll click my formula builder. And now let's just talk about these other two as well. Again, some functions will have parameters that are not required, and they're typically going to be the last ones. Well, the FV, that's actually the future value of that loan. And what the FV is, so that means I'm going to make a certain number of payments, but at the end I want to pay a lump sum, like maybe $5,000. So now that we've seen the basics of how the formula builder works, let's see how we can explore and get a better idea of some of the different functions that are available in Excel. Let's go ahead and click on an empty cell, maybe D36. And now I'll go over to the Formulas ribbon, and you'll see some of the things we've already talked about. But let's look at this first button here, which is Insert a function into the current cell. I'll click on that button, and now you see that Excel has grouped all its functions down into categories. We have database functions, date and time, engineering, financial, informational, logical. Let's just look at a couple right here. Well, the first one, we want to see if we can find our payment function. So we know it's probably a financial function. So when I click on that menu, I can scroll over, and I can just scroll down and look for possibilities of functions. FV might be future value. Again, sometimes it helps if you're familiar with the category, like the engineering functions may be things that engineers know really well. But we're going to go down here and you see there's a payment, P payment, price, present value, rate. There's all sorts of different functions here I can kind of look at and get an idea of what they are. Then some of the other categories, informational, you can look in and see if a cell is blank, see if there's an error there. These are handy for building if statements and formulas to make them a little bit more robust so they don't show the error messages. Got some more math functions, more statistical functions, and a lot of text functions, which we're going to look at in another unit. So functions are an integral part of Excel. There are literally hundreds of built-in functions designed to do many things that can help us in our spreadsheets. And while it's somewhat unrealistic to try and learn each and every function Excel has to offer, if you're familiar with the function tools and how they work, you can find pretty much any function you might need. Always try to explore the function wizard by category if you're trying to do something that you don't know how to do in Excel.